Hello, and welcome to episode 28 of Poetry Worth Hearing, hosted by me, Kathleen McPhillamy, and with music by Alex Heen. The theme for this episode was losing and/or finding. Interestingly, more of the poems I've received have to do with loss rather than finding. For me, loss has meant the death of some close friends, whilst finding has been the discovery of new poems and poets, as well as, more widely, beginning to know more about birds and how to tell one from another. This episode includes a piece by Caroline Maldonado, who talks about Mirror Stone, a pamphlet of poems by her, with drawings by Garry Lennard, based on the work of Michelangelo. It is a book of finding, of discovering Michelangelo, but also Michelangelo's own process of finding the figure in the stone. I'm also very grateful to David Constantine, who has recorded his poem Carousel from his recent collection Belongings, a beautiful poem of losing and finding. The episode also includes poems by Eugene O'Hare, Kate Young, Lizzie Ballagher, Joseph Long, Claire Parker, Eva Wal, Elizabeth Barton, Helen Overell, Rebecca Wheatley, Fokkina McDonnell, Nick McGaughey, Jenny Hockey, Jane Newberry, and Trish Broomfield. When I heard David Constantine read his poem Carousel, I knew it was exactly what I wanted for this episode, and I very much appreciate his taking the trouble to record it. Through the image of a carousel, which nearly everyone who has been a child, parent or grandparent will recognise, he brings home the horrors of migration and displacement.
Carousel. November, early dark, and in the drizzle on wastelands strung with lights, the fair, and at the heart of it in all the glare and roar, the tuneful, measured, anti-clockwise turning carousel, watchers encircling it. Here is a space to play at letting go, to try, having come thus far, how many seconds separation you can bear after the desert and the sea, after the ice, the hungering, the deaths, and too much entering through the eyes into the kitty of bad dreams. At last they bid in this arena for another lease of trust, and watch their kids go half a revolution out of view, one sailing solo on a swan, and then two clutching tight on an elephant arrive and leave, and you can see they do not quite believe the looping tune will bring them back again to grown-ups so long at the world's mercy, without a tongue to plead, who stand now silent in a ring, and watch their flesh and blood within it orbiting, and wager all on a quaint machinery, and entertain the idea that in this pleasure ground playing at severance is permissible, and that the ancient music is reliable, and keeping time against the clock will bring the children round, take and return the elephant and the swan, strew lost and found on that discouraged audience until they will believe it, if the children will. You let us out of sight, and look, we come again. This travelling Babel, here 3 nights allowed to set up shop on out-of-town terrain. Blessed be the flare of it, blessed be the soft rain. So both the circles, those who stand and watch, and those who ride the friendly animals in a fairy tale, at every revolution on the fabulous flat earth, may see through rain and tears beloved faces lit with mirth, haloed, here and now, and real.
You can find details of Belongings, the collection from which this poem is taken, on poetryworthhearing.biz. So now we move to a more personal experience of loss with Eugene O'Hare.
Nobody Knows Where You Are by Eugene O'Hare. This afternoon I walked by the Green River, then up behind the old Naval College to Blackheath. The good photographers come to the heath this time of year to catch the fog on its slow parade. Plenty of evenings I have been swallowed into this fog and had to listen my way toward the road. 4 years ago, mad with your disappearance, soused up on rum, I came to the fog to become lost too. Perhaps I thought in the lost place I could find you, and rub rum into your gums, and place your cold hands into my armpits until I could feel a flutter that was more than my heart. Nobody knows where you are. How often does that occur to you? I think the idea of all the people who love you getting drunk and lost and drunk and lost in fog, in sun, in sleep, in rain must excite you in some small way, like a mischievous wish under the hood of a solemn prayer. It will only be when I am lost forever that I will find you. I'll be old and afraid of nothing then, and you will still be beautiful in the shirt you left by the Green River.
Kate Young's poem also deals with losing someone close.
Plot K2, Row A. I'm good at burying things. It's taken 10 years to find my brother, unearth him from the yellow rose, and sift the light of him from rubble, his radiance taking me chroma-bound. My 6th birthday on the beach, friends' shrieks, skimming waves, abandoned bucket of salt stink, and the sun heavy with yellowness, a fruit waiting to be peeled. A tartan rug, the old wicker basket abandoned on sand, red gingham slapped with bladderwrack slime, kicked up by my brother's heels, his footsteps sinking in sunset. The hole I dug was a secret cavern for discarded clothes, the picnic debris, the keys to the family Hillman imp, mischief tickling my skin. Sundown, my father's roar, sound exploding from a conch, the scrape of a spade, nail scrabbling the shingle fade, the whoosh of fear in my throat. A big brother hug, capable hands scrabbling muck to uncover the leather and silver. We were close back then, before he lost himself in a hole. I guess I'm good at burying things.
Lizzie Ballagher takes us back to World War I, the loss of a young soldier and its effect on succeeding generations. These lovely letter poems brought to mind Anne Michael's novel Held, which starts from a similar place.
Five letter writers. Pop, 1918. Lost grandfather, head and shoulders taller than all other medics. Pop wrote the letters of an upright man, clear-eyed lover aching for her arms, who, far-sighted enough to know she might, did not want his wife to think him some amazing hero. Just an ordinary chap, he claimed, in that spacious, generous hand so unlike a doctor's scrawl, fluent in open black letters on creamy manila, every letter distinct, words chosen with insightful thought, weighed as if, tenderly, he took the pulse of Granny's slender, rose-skinned wrist. In the lover's month of an unmerry May, he died as full of hope and friendship as he'd lived, wholehearted, thinking of home. A final letter from the trenches shows the date one day before he died, the day before his own pulse stopped, before the ink was hardly dry. Granny, 1961. Always on ice blue airmail paper, her jagged writing grew more faint, yet somehow no less fierce than the tongue in her head, the loss in her heart. She was forever sharp to convey something biting, critical, all the while preserving that flowery veneer as of a grand Victorian widow. In fact, she was Edwardian, yet with unclosed O's, curls, hooks and wobbles. In her fingerless gloves she lacked, especially at the end, the command of her pen she willed so sternly. Mum, 1986. Left fatherless by battles on the Somme, she was dispatched to boarding school, too young to grow a self-belief. The chaos of those distant years leapt off whatever papers she could find to hand, scarce pen control, lines caving in or climbing hills in search of happier days. Always she was one to move, to travel, or else sprawl cheerfully with us, finding fellowship with her daughters. She sent us letters, postcards, right up to her end. Worry and kind-hearted love flowered on every jumbled page. John, 2016. Too well schooled by nuns to leave the lines, to let the style flow freely altogether. His handwriting leaned forward, bent in onward motion, ordered, open, ranging broadly across the page without concern for end stops, capitals. A healthy disregard for niceties, plain, unadorned, the dark point pressed firmly to the paper. But age defeated him. His writing halted. Vacancies appeared in words, in sentences. He'd stare, clouded, as words jostled, tailed away. Myself, 2023. Strange transatlantic dweller, neither one thing nor the other. I practice two styles of writing with my right hand's muscles, joints and sinews. One is boxy, utilitarian, a fast print for reminders, shopping lists, for anything scrawled in haste or in a muddled note. The other longs to create a thing of beauty with the soul of a sonnet, dwells on extremes of love, of passion, war or death or faith. This hand, lumpy in its excess bone spurs, makes flamboyant serifs, swooping Ys and Gs, delights in writing, sending words, good words across. I feel, without a pen, armless, useless, lost.
Joseph Long's poems deal with different kinds of loss. The first, the loss caused by the effects of dementia. The second, I'm still trying to work out what has been lost or found.
Down to the peas, down to the salt. I watch him curiously through the pane, the Camberwell crow, as he hunts, hungry, for patterns, portents, searching for a shard of memory to draw blood, stir something, another pointless rebellion, looking for something else to refuse in peals of thunder, looking for a number, looking for a phone, for sugar in a sand dune, somewhere in this show home of 20 years. Behind beanbag shoulders I can still see that Union ghost. Here, this is the day the DVLA eavesdrop at bus stops. This is the hour of informants, everywhere and nowhere. He looks past and I clock shellacked eyes, so shush my whispering bones. With caught breath and a lashed heart I watch him. I watch him upon that spit of shoreline, the Camberwell crow, stuck on a sandbar. His mountain fastness and farmer smarts gone, now buttoned up the back. I watch this man, my father, this tabula rasa. He is down to the peas, down to the salt, but safe, elsewhere, and still the finest man ever to stand upon shoe leather. The Wall of Monday Morning. Library recording. Every day I'm up against the whiskered wall of Monday morn, but come midday I break the seal to the tomb where I've been corned. I head to where winds will dare me to perambulate, but I wait, shrink back into the porch to brood, to watch leaves cartwheel, click clack click, like shovels scrape on tarmac. When I proceed, it is with caution into this shamanistic zone, here where winds are a whetstone, and sound waves sharpen to a spike. Mollusks crack like Xmas baubles beneath my built-up Cuban heel. Its distorted report triggers the gates, turns the reel. Something pops. My ear is unblocked. The tape hisses, filling my shell-like up until I hear from power fist pollards upon which sound systems are strung. Citizens Band radio, or a library record, thought lost, now found, and last in the county.
Texts of all unpublished poems and information about the poets can be found at poetryworthhearing.biz. Next, it's a great pleasure to hear Caroline Maldonado talk about the little book she has produced together with Garry Lennard, which is inspired by the work of Michelangelo. Caroline has written the poems and translations. Garry has made the drawings, and behind both of them we hear the troubled and brilliant voice of Michelangelo. This little pamphlet is a beautiful thing and well worth having.
Much of my writing is born out of discovery. After working on a translation of poetry by the southern Italian poet Rocco Scotellaro, I visited his birthplace in Basilicata to do a reading from it. While there, I discovered another little-known southern Italian poet, a Renaissance woman, Isabella Morra, who died tragically in an honor killing at the hands of her brothers at the age of 26. I translated her work, some sonnets, and others in a longer form, canzoni, and combined the book with my own poems about her life in a collection called Isabella, published by Smokestack Books. Isabella led me to other Renaissance women poets, including the renowned Marquess Vittoria Colonna, and I learnt that she'd exchanged many poems with the artist Michelangelo, who had sent her over 100 sonnets and devotional drawings during the years of their spiritual Platonic relationship. That's how I came across Michelangelo's own poems, over 300 of them, all intense and personal. Many in sonnet forms, but including in other forms as well. For the last few years, I've also attended sculpture classes, working from a live model in clay, plaster and wax, and I had some knowledge of Michelangelo's art. As I read the poems, I started to make connections with his sculpture and, again, to write my own poems, often using fragments of his lines, as well as translations or versions of them. Many of the fragments I've written in the 5-line syllabic form of the cinquain. Garry Lennard is an artist friend who has explored Michelangelo's work for many years, finding in it, and I quote, profound archetypal forms for which Michelangelo dug deep inside himself and into the marble. He'd read my poems, which deeply impressed him, and I suggested we might work together. He made over 50 drawings, from which he selected some for our collection. He also chose to design the book himself, and we had it privately printed. His drawings are not illustrations of my poems, and although they are in conversation with Michelangelo's work, he aims for, and again I quote, more echoes than imitations, and for them to stand alongside the poems as a parallel experience. This is one poem in which I'm looking at Michelangelo both as a sculptor and as a poet. Other dimensions. He chooses stone to subtract from. Words he adds, one to another. Sometimes a word calls to marble dust on the line below with a song and a surface warmed by sun. He understands dimensions, knows the walls of his home are limited, as the streets leading to his workshop, as Italy's warring states, as the weight of his own life. He believes the world is limited. From space he creates halls and high ceilings. From marble he creates an angel, a mother or son that touches the heart and reveals a soul. But words can travel through time, travel through space, sending love to La Marquesa in Rome. In this way, a small poem may grow larger than David, or even St. Peter's Basilica. In Renaissance Florence at that time, there was a recurring bubonic plague, political corruption, and the Medici, a ruling family, and also a counter-reformation in the Catholic Church. Also in Florence was the fundamentalist preacher Jerome Savonarola, a Dominican priest who could fill the piazza with as many as 10,000 people, among whom will have been the young Michelangelo. The preacher railed against all things secular, which included women's jewellery, but also art and books, and he's remembered for his massive bonfire of vanities where such objects were thrown. Some of Michelangelo's poems were love poems addressed to the young Tommaso de' Cavalieri, and it's most likely that he was homosexual and so would have lived in fear not only of terrestrial punishment, but also an eternal hell after death. A rejection of the flesh in favour of the spirit was expressed in many of his poems. His conception of art was also that the perfect idea of the work lies inside the stone, and it is for the sculptor to discover it through his skill. The lines I chose to further explore express this same idea, both in his personal life, in his rejection of the body in favour of the soul, and his sculpture, which he carved ceaselessly to find the spirit within it. I called this collection Mirror and Stone, and the mirror is looking more inward, and the stone is his approach to sculpting, but sometimes the two overlap. This is called Stone 2. It's by taking away that one draws from the stone a live figure. It grows greater in stone, much as the excess that is one's own flesh with its coarse skin may hide some good works in the soul. I also wrote a few poems about his relation, or referring to his relationship with the Marquess Vittoria Colonna. A song: separated from self, from world, from love, from city, from mother who died too young, split from sculpture that reveals too much flesh, masking the spirit within, heart locked tight, ears grown deaf, until the day a sonetto, La Marchesa's small song, enters freely. La Marchesa's sonetto. Weak and sick I run towards the sun, naked I burn cold wax to his flame, all self-belief lost, but my soul trusts his healing force to complete me. His fire gives light, and to my blindness sight. Lovingly he guides me, raised on my wings, to where love spins and spools me in. That, in fact, was a sonnet written by Vittoria Colonna that I translated as a version in a very compressed form. Mirror 3. A man in a woman speaks through her mouth. After hearing her, I'll never more be my own. Being outside myself, I'll take pity on myself. Make me never turn back to myself. In this poem, which I've called Mirror 4, this is just a response to one of his sketches. My response. Mirror 4. Pure light is white chalk on paper. An Olympian man springs up, 1 foot still planted on earth, his arms reaching skywards. He flings off his swirling shroud of death, is released from earth's prison, is already weightless, can almost fly. A solitary, with no mountain, no city as backdrop, only sleeping men. A human figure graced with limbs of such perfection that his being is a reflection of the God who is love, beauty as pure light. A more humorous poem, and this is a translation or, again, version, but quite close to what he was writing, is from when he was working as a painter on the Sistine Chapel, and as you can imagine, he had to be up on steps with his head stretching back to look up. I'm no painter, I've grown myself a goiter with this labour, like toxic water gives the cats in Lombardy, or maybe in some other country, and it stuck my stomach right under my chin. My beard points to the sky, my cranium presses down on my hump, I'm as pigeon-breasted as a harpy, and my dribbling brush still spatters my face like an ornamental floor. My groin has crawled into my belly, and for balance makes a rump of my arse, and my feet lack all direction without eyes. My skin is stretching in front of me, the folds knotted up behind, and I am bent back as tight as a Syrian bow. The judgments my mind comes up with are odd and make little sense. No one can shoot straight with a crooked gun. Defend my lifeless painting from now on, Giovanni, as well as my honour, for this is no place for me, and I'm no painter. I'll finish with two final poems towards the end of Michelangelo's life. The first one is called Mirror 5. In his room, a mirror though not for vanity, his works unfinished, the body beautiful as a semi-carved angel, scraps pinned to walls, sketches of young Madonnas, building designs, a penciled figure bent back, a bow facing that chapel's half-painted dome. Drawings on one side of the paper, poems on the other, ink bleeds through. Already beyond himself, when they cut off his boots, the leather came away with his soul's flesh. The final poem I've called Stone 3, and it refers to his final Pietà, where there was originally the face of a man, and this eventually he recarved so it became the Madonna. So I refer to that in the poem. Stone 3. He will not sit, the old man. His time is brief. It's not like slicing skin from a fruit to taste the sweet flesh inside. The flesh itself he must chisel away. Until that other man, the one the block held before, the one embracing the fallen Redeemer, becomes the grieving mother. You can see the shadow of his face still imprinted on her veil. That dark shape is the hollow of his eye. The sculptor, shoeless, his crumbling spine aflame, strips flesh from limb, hollows the torso. Only by taking away, per forza di levar, can he release the spirit. And so he carves, hammers, the sharp of his scarpello roughing the stone until the figure is ready to slip into the cavity of the tomb.
Claire Parker's poem is a voyage through life and art and records a process of loss and discovery.
I'd like to read a poem called I Lost My Way. Yesterday, I realised I'd lost my way. Seriously, it was no game to play. At first, I couldn't pinpoint when I went astray or find the words to speak the destination that I sought. Perhaps they were too hard to say. But sometimes what is lost is not so far away. A life or two ago, when words were young and futures seemed to live forever, I thought in metered verse, with rhyme that grew quite naturally from ancient works. But pushing through my childhood into teens, the stanzas didn't stretch enough to hold my dreams. Not then. I turned my back on old-time verse and blanked it out, till it and I felt free, as if my new-time words could finally find me. Sequences of sound, scattered phrase that wove along the page like haywire down a catalogue of age, low on form but long on prose. Mobile, putty in my hands, honey or lemon in my mouth as best befitted tongue or cheek. My new-found words and new-time me morphed, dark between the ins and outs of poetry, bleeding from the long-lost fire of canon and its measured scales of metered mood. I lost the love I had for simple features, the living lines that turn from edges of a page like furrows in a field, the lines that do not beat beyond their bound or claim they come from higher ground. Yesterday I named the loss, and as I slowly dug its ground, I found a truth. My deepest roots were withering, shivering in the space my father left behind. All those abstract forms, those illusions, delusions, and fanciful collusions had all conspired to mask my lived-in world. For what is lost and what is found, even mercenary loss and gain, is never really quite the same. It was high summer when my daddy died, and all at once my world was coloured grey. Its reference points were shrouded in a mist that blocked the sunlight from its earlier play. They say the truth will make you free, and though it takes a while, I saw it yesterday. There was choice ahead of me, to stay and mourn, or celebrate a life that loved and found its way. I would walk from morning time and evening shade through night until I found my dawning day. And now the morning's here, I turn, this time from blankness back to verse. I know that it will speak the words I try to say, not worse, but terse, like truth itself, stripped to the bone, never feeling quite at home.
Making a welcome return to Poetry Worth Hearing is Eva Wal, with 4 poems written in English and the product of a visit to Brazil. These are poems with a lot of finding in them and an ever-present risk of loss.
In the morning I bathe my feet in moon gravel and dive through bold trees' yellow blossom. Right before my eyes, in front of my cage, guarded by bees' baskets made of glass, dances a colibri. I am singing with the powerful voice of the jaguar in the fragile body of a little bird. Preto Amarello. Running slowly through a jungle of words that sound like bells made of rushing water, tangled reality of dreams. You were me, I were you. The snakes daydream with eyes of Preto Amarello. Smoke and coffee, moods and birds, orchids in a tree, bond in cables and chains of electric light. The stem covered by huge ants, working away their lifetime as cars pass on the country road towards the big city. The earth is screaming, dried out and burnt. We all should be watering it with floods of tears. Smoke and coffee, moods and birds, coffee and headache, orchids in a tree. Swan. A poetic journey wanders towards its end, fulfilled, enriched, enveloped in the mystic veils of the Atlantic forest, up there in the Serra do Mar, Ferns stretch out, reach out, curl and crouch. Green stars spread along the way. Someone standing at the side of the road, picking weed like flowers. Herbs to smoke, to swallow, to eat, to heal. I want to stop the van. A white swan that is not home here and nowhere. All the lakes have turned into deserts, far from here. Everything's far. Only the green stars comfort me. Inside, there's a lake inside me that doesn't dry. The ferns grow into my hand. All my fingers saw from scratching barks off fallen trees, tangled in fernweed. The green stars shed over my head. My hair a jungle of lianas, snakes, and an abundance of hidden lush flowers of all colors. Yes, I'm going to the airport in a van that is a swan. A stranger like me, but my home, I know, is in the white forest, white of clouds, where fire only comes from smooth volcanoes erupting to fertilize soil and renew all the trees that wish to grow anew.
Elizabeth Barton writes about the loss of nature and the loss of wonder, perhaps nostalgically, regretting the loss of the affinity a child may seem to have with the natural world.
I'm going to read 2 poems on the theme of loss. My first is about that powerful sense of interconnectedness with the natural world that we all feel as children, but risk losing as we grow older. Wonder. I imagine my mother, aged 5, hazel eyes, dark curls, alone in her room. It's late, but she's left the curtains open. She's standing on tiptoe, clutching the windowsill, her breath misting the glass, watching fairies. They could be satin moths, ermines drawn to the moonglow of her window, but to her they are real. She can see their impish eyes, pale flickering wings, and for a while the veil between the human and the wild lifts, and she feels silk threads connecting everything. She is still in that state of grace where she understands the speech of swallows in the yard, chatters with the bees in lilac bushes, dreams of secret underground kingdoms. It hurts to see her now, confined to the cold cell of reality, far from home, her window to the other world barred forever. In my second poem, I imagine the loss of our most extraordinary aerial acrobat, the swift. Silent summer. That May, the swifts didn't come back. We listened out for cries of elation, craned our necks, scoured the troposphere, but all we saw were clouds pointing ghostly fingers. We longed for them as we longed for thunder. The heat was relentless. Only the quivering of cabbage whites and tiger moths broke the stillness. At dusk, we missed the birds' harum-scarum flight, their dark rising, as though they yearned to reach beyond Earth's atmosphere, touch the stars. We consulted a shaman to plead on our behalf with the spirits of the upper world. He said we stood poised on a threshold, urged us to learn the dance of swifts, leave the comfort of our nests, leap into the gathering wind.
Helen Overell's poem describes the loss caused by change in those we love and the underlying fear of losing them altogether.
Finding height. I seek out that piece of cotton jersey, interlocked fibres, cool, breathable, kind to the skin, left over from making up a nightshirt. Cut away the silhouetted curves that informed the shoulder edge of the sleeve. Trim the shape for symmetry, leaving rounded corners. I take the turban winding in both hands, reach up to cover your newly shorn scalp, your lost hairline. Your eyes widen, huge now in your unframed face. This could be a scene taking the veil in some old film. We could be actors with bit parts in another life. I settle the folds, gather in the ends, tie a loose knot. "Oh, that's so comfortable," you say in your gentle Scots lilt. "We need a mirror." And so we go to find one, your head wrapped about in swirls of sea green. "There's height," you exclaim. You straighten up, an inch or so added to the slippered noonday, nibbled losses lost awhile. Such warmth and light singing in the look of you.
Rebecca Wheatley's poems take us back to the loss of self that can be experienced when those around us age or get sick, or when the same thing starts to happen to us.
Care. "I'm here now," she said, pulling the wet sheets from the bed, swatting damp apologies like piss-drenched flies, jollying off the shame of it. "I'm here now," she said, bundling the washing in a hefty dance, picking the stinking nightdress from the floor, kicking it in with the rancid pile, a dank goal scored. "I'm here now," she said, whistling quiche and salad and sudden colour. No quizzing, all smiles. "I'm here now. I will walk you a little, take the corners with you gently. Let this be our sluggish adventure," she said. "I'm here now. To unearth the magic grown stiff in you, to listen to your story and listen again, to remind you of happy, to remind myself, to lift your mood, to know it. I'm here now," she said, heaving her heart from under heel in laden strides. "I'm here now. We can get better together. I was lost," she said, "so lost. But I found myself, and I'm here." The Edge. "If I forget your name, do not believe you're lost to me. It's just a name. Words that trip-trapped off my tongue so much they found the ledge and fell. Because that's where I am, at the edge of myself. The outer reaches stretched so far to thinning, set adrift searching for the tune in the clamour."
Fokkina McDonnell looks at different aspects of loss in ways which are sometimes surreal, sometimes deeply touching.
Lost. I had fallen asleep on the train, which was now standing still. Through the large windows, I could see the moon and the line of coaches to my left and right. I knew I was in a depot or yard that no one had checked. No conductor in grey uniform had walked through and checked the toilets. I knew I was the parcel, that someone would come to collect me, show evidence, pay VAT and import duties. I knew that they couldn't be disappointed. They'd ordered a talking book from Amazon, and I was a living anthology. I could recite poems, even make them up as I prepared him a peanut butter sandwich. Another of your discoveries. Today, you found an animal with yellow nails. That means it's cloned, you said. It has a greyish, curly coat, a corner missing from its left ear. It's sitting outside the vet's, the one near the cancer hospital. A yellow and blue Provençal handkerchief has been tied round its neck. This gives it a gypsy appearance, this creature used to a lifetime of waiting. Procedures. After the film Shoplifters, in the Art Center bar, you said, there's always a lot of eating in Japanese films. On New Year's Day, our playing focus for the transformation game was boundaries. That afternoon, you didn't want to walk round a lake in Plattfield. I'm too old for resolutions. There's no room in my life now for people who don't love or support me. Is it true that you said fucking hell twice during the colonoscopy? The last morning of your stay, you lifted the tiny spider from the bath onto a tissue, watched it walk off on the white tiles. Origami. Those were the days when everyone old enough had mastered the skills of folding. Each evening after 10 o'clock, doors opened. Orange light spilled onto the cobbled streets. They came out quietly, holding their elegant creations. Cathedrals, troops of monkeys, small armies, always white, proceeded to the town square. No one spoke. A silent parade past the masked judges. At midnight, all the church bells sounded. Every morning it was winter, layers of white paper, damp to the touch, being pecked by listless pigeons.
Now, the loss of things. Nicholas McGaughey writes about the loss of a pet tortoise.
Please release me, let me go. Humpty was christened after the crooner. Mother painted 59 both sides of his shell in lacquer. I think he cost £1. Like a stone on legs, he groped around the garden. When the cat poked him, he'd blink black eyes and retract into his helmet. He guzzled lettuce like paper, shat green slugs on the grass, a tank on manoeuvres. Clearing his nares in a sneeze, he'd gape his toothless beak like he was laughing at me. Autumn, he got buried in a sandbox in the attic until the summer came around. When it did, he went. Perhaps he met a she who pearled out eggs behind the hydrangeas. We never saw them nipping at our gems or spinach. Maybe they eloped under the fencing. Someone said a boy on the estate was making ashtrays from the shells, flogging them for 2 bob to his mates.
In this one, Jenny Hockey gives an apparently light-hearted view of losing and finding.
And you shall find. I lost you in Aldi first, and more annoying still, mistakenly called up a talkative friend whose name follows yours in my contacts. Then had to explain all over again to dodge the gospel man's promise of an all-powerful being he knew I was searching for, that it was my husband I'd lost, seen last on the steps of the city hall, watching the fervent dancers swirl their hips to the beat of a drum. And the gospel man found it within himself to throw up his hands and laugh.
Jane Newberry's poem is both light-hearted and nostalgic.
The Lost Star. Have you heard? Papa gasps, struggling with the heaviest hold-alls. Chef Henri has lost his Michelin star. His words fall on the doormat as a chaos of unpacking unfolds. Outside by the car, Maman, under a bale of bathing towels, is catching up with a passer-by in a series of Gallic shrugs. Henri has lost his Michelin star. Marie-Louise opens the kitchen door where a blended clink of glasses, music, and a whiff of garlic seep in. Poor Henri, his precious star. With a paw of Doudou and an ear of Marcel, I run up the creaky bare-board stairs. From the window I see the usual cafe crowd, chilled, no lament, no forensic search. Without his star, can't Henri conjure the millefeuille, the macaron, the madeleine? I run down for the shrimping net and put it ready beside the open window. When night falls, I feel there might be a chance.
Trish Broomfield's poem takes me right back to the sixth form.
Losing it. I'm saving myself, Carol said. We all knew who for, though nobody spoke. Carol had a crush on Nicolette Lemming, who had legs like tree trunks and wore scarves even when it wasn't cold. She was French. It's too easy, Josie recalled. Look at Sylvia. There was a hush. She lost hers to Andrew Farley. He was the jewel of the first 11 and a heaven-sent head boy. Well, you'll lose yours to Dave Burke, Carol spoke. It'll never work, Sandra said. He's blonde, and you know what they say. We all nodded sagely, without a clue. And you, Josie countered, will go off the rails with all that entails. I'm going to marry Mr. Baines, remember? In your dreams, Carol said, despite your schemes, he's not looked your way once. And the truth of it was, Sandra lost hers to a boy she met at a disco uptown. Said he was in a band. The baby, unplanned. I waited until after exams. Lost mine to Barry on a school trip. He said we would marry when he got his results. Only I got mine first. The positive news did not go down well. His mum gave us hell and called me a tart, ruining the start of her precious son's life. But a negative followed. I was never his wife.
That ends episode 28, the last for the year. For more information and text of poems, go to poetryworthhearing.biz. I hope you enjoyed listening.